Good evening. We are live in the thick of it, staring down a day that feels less like a news cycle and more like a fever dream where reality is being edited in real time. The moral urgency here is not just high. It is screaming at us from every corner of this feed. Look at the timing of these posts. It starts with an accusation so stark, so legally charged, that you have to pause before even moving on. Guilty, that single word sits atop a post claiming Jack Smith spied on him in Congress. He calls it illegal weaponization and demands it end. He shares a link with the headline: Jack Smith spied on me in Congress. This illegal weaponization needs to end. The intensity is immediate, but then, immediately after, he pivots from the courtroom drama of spying allegations straight into an inspection tour of what he describes as complete negligence. He shares a note from Greg Wisher at the Department of Interior, and this is where we have to look closely. The Post says they visited the vault underneath the WWII Memorial fountains because of a direction to coat them. And what did they find? He describes it as a massive underground labyrinth feeling like an old, falling apart WWO bunker. It is leaking in many places. Rusted out electrical boxes have water dripping into them. And then he shares the image, the one that really stops you cold. This photo shows an industrial-looking concrete chamber with icicles hanging from a metal-framed opening filled with tangled wires, red, blue, white connectors, and below, a grated floor covered in slushy ice and debris. There is frozen organic matter or residue there. He says the Biden admin left us a complete mess and that it is a miracle the fountains are even working. But look at the juxtaposition. One moment he is screaming about spying on him, calling prosecutors guilty of weaponization, and the next, he is showing us stalactites forming inside electrical boxes under our most sacred memorial. He says it's a mess. He calls it a miracle they are running. And then we see another image of an open electrical panel on a cinder block wall, with power meters and loose yellow Ethernet cables taped up against the door, alongside printed sheets that are blurry but clearly diagrams or tables. The narrative is clear in his eyes: decay everywhere he looks from the previous administration. But wait, before you can even process the rusted boxes and the leaking vaults, we get a sudden shift to planting beautiful maple and oak trees at the White House. He posts images of himself holding a shovel mid-dig near yellow construction machinery, flanked by workers in hard hats. One sign says construction. It is lush green trees against orange safety barriers. The narrative swing here is dizzying. From leaking electrical boxes to planting oak trees, from rusted infrastructure to fresh earth. And then the numbers start pouring in, and we have to be very careful with how these are presented. He shares multiple links, all hammering on one specific figure: nearly $10 billion in defense investments at a Pennsylvania summit. The headlines he amplifies say, President Trump highlights nearly $10 billion in defense investments. Pennsylvania Defense Summit leads to nearly some number dollars in contracts, and Trump announces some number for defense projects. He touts this figure repeatedly, nearly $10 billion, claiming it will create some number of jobs. We see an image from a groundbreaking event where he gives a thumbs up next to workers wearing vests with L3 Harris on them, standing by an excavator and freshly dug earth. The message is one of industrial renaissance. Pennsylvania called key national defense renaissance, Trump says. He shares another link saying proud American veterans will replace illegal immigrant truck drivers, connecting this massive infrastructure pushed directly to a labor shift he wants us to see as patriotic restoration. But look at the scope of what is being claimed here. He isn't just talking about one project. He is weaving together this narrative of total transformation across multiple fronts while simultaneously attacking the past administration for every crack in a sidewalk or rust on a pipe. And then, suddenly, we are looking halfway around the world. The feed shifts to Scotland. The people of Aberdeen, he writes, are dancing in the streets. Why? Because a new prime minister is opening up North Sea oil. He calls it one of the greatest sources of quality oil on Earth, with some number of years of capacity left. He claims Britain pays Norway some number of dollars for less valuable oil, and that this will turn the UK from a poverty-stricken disaster into one of the richest countries in the world. He says he loves Scotland. And then, word is they are moving old windmills away from Aberdeen to destroy them? No, he says move them because they loom over and destroy the city. The tone here is ecstatic. We love you, Scotland. It is a global nationalist surge. And that leads us straight into another international flashpoint. He posts, Republicans should add Iran to the Russian sanctions bill. He says Lindsay wanted to do it, and it was going to happen. He marks this with 3 exclamation points. Important. Then he shares a screenshot of what appears to be an official tweet from U.S. Central Command, saying that at 2 p.m., forces began conducting strikes against Iran for the sixth consecutive night to degrade military capabilities. That post has some number of views. And then we see another image, a newspaper page headlined, "The Grand Strategy Behind the Trump-Vance-Iran Deal," discussing Operation Midnight Hammer and potential agendas. The juxtaposition is stark. He wants sanctions added while sharing headlines about ongoing strikes. He connects this global aggression to a rising tide of nationalism elsewhere. He shares a link asking if France will be next with a Le Pen reprise, claiming Trump-style nationalism surges across globe. It's an argument that his model is the only way forward for nations everywhere. But we cannot ignore the domestic data he is using to back this up. He shares a series of charts attributed to Stephen Moore, and these are detailed, specific claims about inflation and income. One chart shows CPI growth since taking office: 11.7% under Biden-Harris, down to 5.5% in his second term, with the first term at 3.6%. Another bar chart compares average real gas prices in April 2026: $4.30 for Obama, $3.88 for Biden, and he claims a drop to $3.32 under Trump's current run versus $3.25 in the first term. Then we see household income data. Net change in real median household income showing $6, some number gain in his first term, $569 under Biden, and a claimed $3, some number already in just 16 months of the second term. He even breaks it down by the 25th percentile, claiming gains for low-income Americans while suggesting losses or stagnation elsewhere. These are not vague feelings. They are precise numbers he is touting as proof that his economic model works. And yet, alongside these charts of prosperity and defense spending, we see the other side of his visual argument: before and after photos. He posts a comparison of Meridian Hill Park, overgrown with weeds and empty on one side, clean and populated on the other, claiming homelessness was cleared out by executive order. We see Columbus Circle under Biden labeled as damaged or covered in graffiti, including Hamas and red paint smears, versus Trump where it is restored and intact. The Washington Monument reflecting beautifully in pools of water at dusk, with crowds gathering. A chart claiming our pool is bigger than skyscrapers like the Willis Tower or One World Trade Center. Every image seems designed to prove one thing: that before him was decay, rusted electrical boxes, leaking vaults, graffiti-covered monuments, and now there is cleanliness, construction, and grandeur. The market moves are wild today. We see Bitcoin and Ethereum swinging back and forth, reacting to the sheer volume of information dropping simultaneously. The spying allegations, the leaked vaults, the some number dollar defense announcement, the strikes on Iran, the Scottish oil dance. The markets were choppy, volatile, whipsawing in response to this torrential flow of claims. But you cannot separate these threads. They are all part of one cohesive argument he is making. He went from guilty regarding Jack Smith to showing us rusted pipes under a memorial to celebrating some number dollars in defense contracts and dancing crowds in Scotland. The timing is relentless. One moment, we are looking at icicles on electrical wires. The next, we are reading about veterans replacing truck drivers and opening North Sea oil. He posts a screenshot of Jack Possobike saying, "She said the quiet part out loud," regarding fraud in California ballots being counted culturally first. He is connecting election integrity to everything else: the economy, the infrastructure, the military strikes. It's all one machine turning over and over again. Decay under the old guard, restoration under his watch. Look at the image of him standing with workers near an excavator. Look at the chart saying real income went up by some number in 16 months. Look at the photo of the vault where water is leaking into electrical boxes. He wants us to see that he fixed it all. We are left with a day defined by extremes, from the accusation of spying in Congress to the celebration of planting oak trees, from rusted stalactites dripping into electrical panels to nearly $10 billion pledged for defense. He claims the UK will be rich again because of oil. He says France is next for nationalism. And he insists that sanctions on Iran must expand while sharing reports of strikes already happening. The market moved violently through this storm, Bitcoin swinging, Ethereum reacting, but the host's message remains singular. Everything was broken, rusted, leaking, or dangerous under them, and now it is being fixed with bold investments and hard choices. He shared a link to an article about Trump-style nationalism sweeping France. He posted images of clean monuments versus graffiti-covered ones. He touted inflation numbers dropping from 11.7% to 5.5%. It is a moral argument wrapped in data, backed by photos of concrete chambers filled with ice and slush. And we must ask ourselves, what does it mean when the same feed that shows us leaking pipes under our war memorials also promises some number of jobs from some number dollars in contracts? What is the connection between a vault with stalactites and dancing crowds in Aberdeen? He leaves no gap for doubt. Every post builds on the last, creating this overwhelming sense of urgency. Look at the timing. First the spy accusation, then the infrastructure decay, then the massive defense spending, then the global nationalist wave. It is a relentless drumbeat that refuses to let you catch your breath or question the narrative without being met with another image of restoration or another chart showing economic recovery. We have seen the Trump War Room claims about Meridian Hill Park. We've seen the Washington Times headline on Iran's strategy. And we've heard him say he loves Scotland while promising to open North Sea oil. The sheer density of these threads, spying allegations, defense spending in Pennsylvania, international strikes, domestic inflation charts, is designed to overwhelm any counterargument with a wall of facts as he defines them. And yet, beneath the celebration and the numbers, there is that image of the electrical box dripping water into rusted wires, a reminder of what he says was left behind. This is not just a day's news, it is a manifesto in motion. From guilty to planting trees, from $10 billion deals to strikes on Iran for the sixth night running, he wants us to see that he has already won everywhere and only needs one more push to finish the job. The markets moved through this chaos, reacting to every headline, every image of a clean monument versus a dirty one, every claim of income rising or falling by some number of dollars. But for him, nothing is in doubt. It was broken, now it's fixed. They were spying, now we are building. The vaults were leaking, now there are shovels in the dirt. That's the show. We're on Spotify and YouTube if this earned it, like subscribe, tell a friend. And housekeeping, the machine that writes this gets tuned constantly for cleaner news. The numbers are real, the jokes are not.